For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Welcome back to the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, hosted by GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Nolan Jammer. First three segments covered NBA, talked about Pistons versus Knicks, talked about them, Houston Rockets versus the Golden State Warriors series, and started off by talking about Coach Popovich stepping down as the head coach from the San Antonio Spurs and his legacy there. Segments 4 and 5, it's the NFL. Segment number 4, we're talking about the AFC West. We're going to break this down a little bit. Segment 5, we'll be talking about Aaron Rodgers and what his future looks like in the NFL. Before we get into that, taking a little sip of water. Let's go for 2. Pure. Okay. AFC West. Talk about it. Honestly, one of the toughest divisions in the NFL. Top three hardest division in the NFL. The top 3, in my opinion, are not. This is in no order, by the way. NFC North, NFC East, AFC West. Those are the 3 hardest divisions in football, and I will stand by that. AFC West this year is going to be very interesting. You got, the Raiders with a very young duo with Brock Bowers at tight end, Gentry in the backfield, plus the addition of Geno Smith at quarterback and Pete Carroll, their new head coach from Seattle, coming out of retirement to come coach the Raiders. So the Raiders got, a lot in store this year for them. You got the Chargers, coached by, second-year head coach, or third-year head coach now, Jim Harbaugh out of Michigan. Second-year, sorry. Head coach out of Michigan with a lot of new running back room. They got Najee Harris and they got him from the Steelers, and Amarian Hampton from North Carolina. Then you got the Chiefs. It's the Chiefs. And then you got the Broncos. One of the biggest underdogs last year, I would say. I will say this, they had the best defensive team last year, maybe behind the Steelers, but they had the best defensive secondary in the NFL last year. But defensive-wise, top 2, tied with the Steelers. But this division this year is going to be, a bloodbath. I'll tell you that right now. It's going to be very. I think the entire division will flip flop. It'll be a new team in a different rank this year. It's not going to be Chiefs 1, Broncos 2, Chargers 3, Raiders 4. I can 100% see maybe the Chiefs drop down to the 3 or 4 spot. Maybe the Raiders go to 3, maybe 2. It's going to be really weird. It's going to be a very weird division this year. And the reason I think that is because the Chargers. The Chargers' defense played, kind of stepped up towards the end of the year last year, but not really at the same time. They played better. Their defense is kind of like their lacking suit, and they were able to, step up a little more towards the end of the year. And when they played the Houston Texans in the wild card, it wasn't like a blowout, but throughout the game, the Chargers just couldn't do anything. And just by watching the game, you could tell that Houston was in control the entire time. But their offense is where, they're dominant. Obviously, you just got Najee Harris, a great running back. Amarian Hampton is going to be a great rookie for them. You have one of the best quarterbacks from the 2020 class, Justin Herbert, who actually is the best quarterback from that class. One of the best quarterbacks right now. And people call him, the hypothetical quarterback. And people make up a lot of hypotheticals about him. Like, oh, imagine if he had this person, or imagine if this person didn't drop this pass. Like, those hypotheticals that people come up with him, for him, are just always the funniest. I love just seeing those because they just come up with the most like absurd hypotheticals. And if you're like ever on TikTok or like Twitter or Instagram or whatever, and you like manage to see those, you'll know what I'm talking about. Like some of the hypotheticals are insane. They're like, what if Justin Herbert had, like Calvin Johnson? Like, you know how good he would be? Like his hypotheticals are getting, they used to be legit, like actual good like questions, but now they're just, what if he had the greatest running back of all time and like Barry Sanders or like Randy Moss, which is, I always find this really funny. But I mean, his team, the problem with the Chargers, they're like the Hawks. I'll compare them to like the Hawks of the NBA. Very similar, pretty like a mediocre team who will continue to kind of be mediocre until they step away from their key player. The Hawks need to get rid of Trae Young. They need to rebuild around someone else. And I wouldn't say the Chargers need to step away from Justin Herbert, but they don't seem to be winning a lot with him. They've had no playoff success with him, and he really is having some pretty mediocre seasons as of recent. Like he's not playing, phenomenal. I mean, he's not playing bad at all. Don't get me wrong, but he's not playing, like some all-star caliber quarterback that they hope he would be out of Oregon. So I don't know. I kind of compare those two together, but the Chargers themselves, like they're probably be another wild card team this year, but their defense is, kind of where they need to step up. Bosa, especially Bosa, he really needs to, they cut him. I forgot they cut Bosa this offseason. Their main defensive anchor in Bosa is gone. I mean, I'm not sure what they're gonna do on the defensive end side of the now. I'm not sure if they drafted in the draft, but the Chargers, I don't follow the Chargers throughout the draft. It's not my team, and so they're gonna have an interesting season this year for sure. They're gonna have some spots to fill in the defensive side of the ball and see if if they can get past the wild card slump, they can maybe make some noise in the playoffs. But the problem is, I don't think they will. They haven't before, and I don't think they will anytime soon, which does suck. The Raiders, like I said, they're going to be a really interesting team to keep your eye on. Obviously, you got the first overall running back picked in the draft, Ashton Jeanty, Heisman runner-up this year. Phenomenal overall player. I mean, he's like, people were comparing him to like Derrick Henry, which is, I think, was kind of crazy comparisons. But the way they play, you can kind of see why. I mean, the way they run is kind of similar. Also, the way defenders end up like falling off them. He just kind of runs and they just kind of bobble off of him. And that's what Derrick Henry does. Lowers his shoulder. They fall. Jeanty does the same thing, except he does it a little weaker, I guess you could say. But they're both great running backs, but nowhere near. Do you think the Spurs are going to stay within their franchise to hire the next coach? Do you think they go outside with Miami Heat? Do you think if Paul steps down? If Paul steps down, they stay in. Hang on. I gotta rethink this, Anthony. Hold up. Do you think the Spurs are going to stay within their franchise to hire the next coach? Oh, I see what you're saying. Do you think that Miami's head coach Paul, do you think he leaves? I mean, that's the problem. Do you think, is he out of contract now? If the Spurs, I don't think they will stay within the franchise. What I do think they should do, I think they should 100% go look for Michael Malone. Michael Malone has dealt with so Michael Malone kind of fits when he was with the Nuggets, he kind of had the same team that the Spurs do. A very phenomenal, talented big man. They have a vet, They have a vet, Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul, Stephon Castle. You can compare him to maybe like Jamal Murray. Kind of a crazy comparison, but I mean, if I'm the Spurs, I'm 100% going for Michael Malone. 100%. He was able to take that Nugget team from since 2018 to the playoffs every year, and Jokic was still very inexperienced at that time, 2018, and he was still relatively new. It was like 6 years into the NBA at that point, and he still wasn't nearly as good as he was now. And he saw something in Jokic that was able to kind of build up on. And I think that if the Spurs should go for Michael Malone 100%. I think he's just their head coach to go for. That's my opinion. He just has so much experience with a phenomenal big, a vetted player on his team. Kind of help lead the younger guys. I think that going for Malone would be the best play for the Spurs. I don't really know anybody within their franchise who would be a good maybe in the meantime, while the off season's going on, train with some in-franchise people. But I would say hopefully before the draft, they go get, a new coach in Michael Malone. I think Michael Malone would 100% fit his role there. That's my opinion, though. Got a little off topic there. Thanks for the question, though, Anthony. You're always here asking questions. Appreciate that. But I got a little off topic from the AFC West. But the Raiders could be really dangerous this year. Obviously, like I said, they got Genty, one of the best overall running back in this draft. They have you had the best rookie tight end last year, Brock Bowers, and a top 5 tight end already in the NFL. I'll say that he's already a top 5 tight end. He is phenomenal. He is so versatile and usable, insanely he's just talented. You got a great head coach and Paul and Steve and Pete Carroll. I always call him Pete Corral. And Pete Carroll, he was with the Seahawks for plenty of years, won them, Super Bowls, and he's bringing in Geno Smith, who was a coach. He coached him in Seattle for a year before he was let go, and now he's got him in Oakland, and now he's got him in Las Vegas. I forgot they also left Oakland. So the Raiders this year could be a very dangerous team to see, and who knows? I can maybe see them making up to their second seed in the AFC West, not the first seed. I think the first seed will go to the Broncos this year. I think this is a crazy take. I think the seeding will go Broncos at the 1 to end the season. I think it'll end with Broncos at the 1, Raiders at the 2, Chargers 3, Chiefs at the 4. I think the Chiefs are going to have a very off year. Patrick Mahomes played horrible last year. Travis Kelce is washed, respectfully. He's not good anymore. Their defense is still fine, but they somehow managed to squeak their way to a Super Bowl, and they got absolutely manhandled, 38-7 to the Eagles. So I think that the Chiefs are going to have a very off year. They'll have a good record, but I think they missed the playoffs on a 8-9, 9-8, 10-7 record, something like that. That's a crazy take in my opinion, but that's what I got going. So thank you for tuning in to this segment of the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast. Segment 5, the final segment, we'll talk about Aaron Rodgers and his future in the NFL. We'll get to him and the topic after the break.